Let's talk about Lisa. Who is she? Is she related to Karen? Does she have to go away like Felicia? Let's find out. First of all, if we were to hold a photo contest today of invasive mechanical ventilation versus non-invasive ventilation, such as CPAP or NIPPV, non-invasive ventilation wins. A CPAP-first strategy leads to less BPD and no increase in IVH or other serious morbidities. But the thing we miss out on with non-invasive ventilation is giving surfactant. Surfactant has so many benefits like reducing RDS severity, reducing air leak, and decreasing mortality, so we'd love to give it. One way to do that is the Insurer Method. This is where you intubate, give surfactant through the endotracheal tube, and then extubate. The time of invasive positive pressure ventilation is minimal, but the concern is that even in as little as 5 large tidal volume breaths, we can cause lung injury. This might be why when we look at multiple studies comparing Insurer to invasive mechanical ventilation, there is no clear evidence that this is a better strategy. So if you are a provider that has intubated a baby to give surfactant, it just isn't clear that it is better to put them back on the non-invasive ventilation or to leave them intubated on a ventilator. But come on, look at that smile. The other way to give surfactant is the LISA method, which stands for Less Invasive Surfactant Administration. With this, a thin catheter is used to give the surfactant into the trachea while the baby is spontaneously breathing on CPAP. The baby gets the surfactant with absolutely no chance of us bagging it in through the thin catheter. Unlike the way we often use Insurer, LISA is a way to give early rescue surfactant, so we can avoid any intubation. Babies stabilized on CPAP or NIPPV are candidates for LISA if they remain over 30% oxygen. Let's see how it's done. So the baby is spontaneously breathing on CPAP. Then a thin catheter is placed, just like an intratracheal tube. The surfactant is put in slowly. And then the catheter is removed. What does the data show for LISA? In this sort of analysis, if the plots are to the left of the line, it means LISA is better, and to the right means the control is better. The top section shows several respiratory outcomes, and what is striking is how they nearly all favor LISA. Outcomes like BPD, death or BPD, and need for any mechanical ventilation. The next section looks at some of our common morbidities. None of them are significant because the plots cross the middle line, but it is reassuring that things like IVH, ROP, and NEC are not made worse with LISA, and the trend, if anything, favors LISA. When Brian and I just honed in on comparing LISA to the Insurer method, LISA still has better outcomes. Here's looking at BPD, showing a reduction with LISA compared to Insurer. And here's looking at need for mechanical ventilation in the first 72 hours. LISA means less babies ever get intubated and more stay on non-invasive support. A large group of hospitals using this method looked at their own data. What they showed was that babies in their hospitals that were stabilized on CPAP and never required surfactant, that is, they never required more than 30% oxygen, they had the least BPD and are shown as the blue bars. Babies intubated, given surfactant, and left on mechanical ventilation, shown in black, had more BPD. Babies that crossed the 30% oxygen threshold and received LISA, shown in red, had similar BPD rates as the babies on CPAP. So even though those getting LISA had likely sicker lungs to start with, their BPD rates were not higher than those babies that started out more stable on CPAP. Wow! Those authors talked about LISA as not just an isolated technical procedure, but really one part of a comprehensive non-invasive approach. As we strive to support our babies' respirations non-invasively, LISA will be just one additional tool in our toolkit. The first big obstacle is whether the baby is breathing or not. If the baby is not breathing, then obviously we will intubate and give surfactant and work toward an extubation as soon as possible. If the baby is breathing, then we stabilize on CPAP or NIPPV. Some babies will end up failing non-invasive ventilation, and we don't like that, but it happens. If the baby is stable on non-invasive support and less than 30% oxygen, we just continue the non-invasive support. If the baby is over 30% oxygen, we have a stepwise approach to optimize the support. But if the oxygen requirement stays above 30%, then we use LISA to give surfactant. I hope this helped you to get to know LISA a little bit better. Now let's all go surfing together with LISA.